This is Right to Life Radio. And now, here's your host, John Gerardi.
Welcome to Right to Life Radio, a production, as always, of Right to Life of Central California. But it's not just Right to Life of Central California, not just Fresno Right to Life we're talking about today. I'm joined today by my good buddy, the director of Tulare Kings Right to Life, Miss Ann Marie Payton. Welcome, Ann Marie.
Thank you.
To Right to Life Radio. Your first time?
Yep.
Your first time on Right to Life Radio. We're very pleased to have you. So we're here to talk about, we want to talk about your organization. We want to share with our audience some of the stuff that TKRL does in the South Valley. And this show, Right to Life Radio, is not just on Power Talk 96.7 in Fresno. It's also on AM 1400 down in Visalia and Tulare County. So we want to talk about what you guys are doing and about your event that's coming up on Thursday, September 5th. So, Ann Marie, why don't we first maybe introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, and how you got to be in this position, being director of TKRL.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk with you. I am Ann Marie Payton, and before this job, I am a fertility care practitioner teaching the Creighton model for the last 15 years. And before that, I have ER experience as an EMT phlebotomist. So I've always kind of been in the medical field. This is first for me coming into this role in this position. I was a board member for 3 years, of course, a volunteer before that with TKRL. And then I took a position as a program coordinator, and our, at the time, executive director was just in lieu of waiting for someone else to step into those shoes. And the Lord has called me into this job, and it's been wonderful for the last year.
All right, awesome. So you're directing TKRL. Maybe our audience is sort of familiar with us up Right to Life in Fresno. What's some of the stuff that you guys work on, do? What does your guys' year look like as far as your advocacy and work?
Good. So we have 3 main programs right now. One that you and I work with, and that's education. So we're really pushing out education in terms of curriculum. We did start a preschool pro-life program out at the office, and that meets once a month with a retired board. One of our board members is a retired second grade teacher, so she's creating the curriculum, and we have our preschool pro-life program once a month, every 3 months, and then we take a break and come back for sessions.
Awesome.
That's going well. I also work with you, of course, in getting a curriculum out there to our public and private schools. And one of the goals we have going forward is to actually include VR technology. So our fundraisers are very important. We are working on providing VR technology that will show baby in utero from the spark of life through 40 days in utero, and be able to take that into the classroom as well.
Wow, that would be awesome. Jeez, that sounds super cool. So you mentioned about your fundraiser coming up. I think that's one of the main things we wanted to have you on for, in addition to just introducing you to our broader audience here. But you guys have an awesome event coming up on my birthday, on Thursday, September 5th, which I'm sure that was the plan.
It
was
it's your
it
birthday gift, you're coming.
Yeah, exactly. And then then I'm going to Bakersfield the next day, so just staying away from my wife on my birthday. Anyway, so talk about your guys' event you have coming up on Thursday, September 5th. You got Jesus to come himself, or at least Jim Caviezel. So let talk about what's going on with this event.
That's right. So because we have so many endeavors going forward, I mentioned the education. We also have the restoration part of our program, which offers all the services for people who are post-abortive. So like Rachel's Vineyard Retreat, we do that alongside you guys as well. We also have a new retreat for that part called Grief to Grace. So that will specifically be for women who have experienced sexual trauma. You know that the coincidences between someone who suffered sexual trauma and abortion are great. So we need some healing programs in that regard. And then we also do a lot of the advocacy that you guys are so great at. So we are working at our helping advocates be out there on the front lines, on the sidewalks in front of abortion clinics. You may not know that currently in the South Valley, there have been 3 attempts by Planned Parenthood, or currently Family Planning Associates, to set up an abortion clinic, and we have been successful at keeping 2 of those clinics out. Currently, there's still the threat of one happening in Tulare, but we are prayerfully out there once a week, and it hasn't opened yet.
Right. Well, and that's a huge thing, and I've appreciated the opportunity to participate a little bit. I mean, most of the work on this has been from TKRL's part, obviously, but basically there's no abortion clinic right now between Fresno and Bakersfield.
That's right.
And Planned Parenthood has noticed this. Family Planning Associates has noticed it. Family Planning Associates is kind of, if Planned Parenthood is Coca-Cola, then Family Planning Associates is like RC Cola, basically. So they're another kind of chain of abortion providers. And there have been media outlets covering these, what they're calling abortion or reproductive care deserts.
Right.
And there's a big piece in the San Francisco Chronicle about about a year or two ago about how terrible it is that there's no abortion clinic in Tulare County, which is I think it's the most populous county in California to not have an abortion clinic.
Yep.
And it's been really inspiring, and I think a model for other cities, not just in California, but throughout the country, how you guys at TKRL have sort of taken this all hands on deck approach when you hear the news that an abortion clinic is about to come, trying to do everything possible, legally and legitimately and charitably and lovingly, but everything possibly within your arsenal of available resources to stop it.
Right.
Maybe you could talk about some of those different instances of stuff you guys have done.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share that, because it's really important that our listeners understand that I know sometimes we feel helpless against the business side of a Planned Parenthood or an abortion clinic, and we have had great success at mobilizing people. So once there's an awareness of an abortion clinic coming into the city, we do have all hands on deck, and that could look like organizing 150 people outside of the city council meeting. It has also included us organizing people to come into the city council meeting. So it's more effective if it's not just everyone saying we are pro-life. It's better to have a doctor, a nurse, a psychologist, a therapist, an educator, and you have all these different people in all the walks of life go in there and tell the city council, for these reasons, this is not going to be good for our community. And so we've been able to do that. So every time we have to present at a city council, TKRL will organize certain speakers, all different, so that no two people get up there and say the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And that's so important for advocacy to have that intelligently mapped out. I remember going to Sacramento one time and opposing. It was with Jonathan Keller, actually. We were opposing some bill, and hearings in Sacramento are not super as well organized as you would think, and so basically they just say, okay, is anyone here to speak against this bill? And Jonathan and I had prepared we had brought up a witness, had everything prepared. And some other Yahoo who we didn't know just got to the microphone first and just started talking. And it was this woman who was totally ill-prepared and had nothing intelligent to say whatsoever. But she did think Jesus told her to talk. And I would dispute the contention that Jesus had told her to talk. The Spirit moved her. Well, some Spirit did. Anyway, so it's so important to get really intelligent advocacy. So maybe talk about the individual. So this has been happening in Visalia and in the city of Tulare, right?
That's right.
Different attempts have happened.
2 attempts in Visalia. And the way we've noted, we're learning as we go, that this works is you make that presentation. Now, the city council, as we know, really doesn't have very much jurisdiction over that. It has to do with the planning department. It has to do with city zoning, where this business or clinic can set up. So sometimes that could be a stop or a challenge for businesses coming in. If we know about it ahead of time, we have a better chance at getting in there. The site plan review has to do with zoning. So if the clinic this area is zoned for a clinic to come into, there's really nothing we can say about it.
Yeah.
But we can attend, if it gets to the next level of the planning department, then you can have citizens come in and speak against it. And that's when you have your organized. If that doesn't work, we continue to address the council. Now, not just in our presence, but we also have a huge mail out. So everybody can mail. We hand out the numbers of all the city council members and the planning department. So everybody gets phone calls and snail mail and emails. You kind of inundate them to let them know that there's a large contingency of people who do not want this in the city.
Right. Well, and even beyond advocacy to public officials, it seems like one of the things you guys have been so effective at is, these hunks of property where Planned Parenthood wants to set up, they have a private owner.
That's right.
They have a private owner or a developer or something who either wants to sell to Planned Parenthood or lease to them. And to make it clear to these business people that, hey, like, this is not good for our city. And, obviously it probably wouldn't stand up legally if a city council said, we're pro-life, therefore we're not granting this to happen. But, hey, a private property owner can make his own decision about, do I want to sell to this person? They can make that decision or not. So the advocacy you guys have brought to private property owners, I think was really effective for a lot of these attempts.
You bring up a good point. It's important for us to make sure that the owner, even the realtor involved in this negotiation, is aware of how serious that could affect the community and the businesses surrounding that potential clinic. So if we can show that there is ample reason, like 20 to 30 people that are going to be out there every day that could potentially affect the businesses, now we're talking, it's going to hurt them, and it's going to hurt the businesses in the area. And if the developer has been there for a long time in the city doing a lot of business, then does the developer want that kind of reputation with a large number of people who would be in opposition to them? And it could affect them personally. So we have had a lot of luck, I guess you could say, with getting people to really address them personally. And on both of the two occasions in Visalia, it ended at the developer level. The developer decided not to go through with it, or the owner of the property decided it wouldn't be in their favor.
Well, I wouldn't say that's luck. I'd say that's creating your own luck. That's doing the right thing. All right. So last 5 or 6 minutes we have here. Let's talk about your event on Thursday, September 5th. So you got an awesome speaker, Jim Caviezel, guy who played Jesus. He was in Sound of Freedom. Right. So tell us about this event.
Well, this event is new, really. We have always had a Making a Difference for Life banquet, which included a meal at the Visalia Convention Center. And we are deciding to change that a little bit.
Okay.
Not only, as you know, inflation is not kind.
No.
And so besides the inflation, we had sold out the last 2 years at 1,200 people, and we needed a bigger venue.
Right.
In looking around, we found that Visalia First Assembly of God Church was able to offer us the biggest venue in the area, 2,600 seats available to us. And then, of course, they have the stage and the lighting and the screens and all that we need for this caliber of a speaker. So we were able to get Jim Caviezel, which was
amazing.
Simply calling and asking out and asking if he was available. And he was. We've been speaking to his agent, Joe Condit, who is the founder and CEO of Catholic Speakers Bureau. And he has been wonderful in helping us. We also got underwriters. So this event is possible because there were several underwriters who were paying these fees to be able to bring the speaker. So it really isn't just us. We are collaborating with wonderful donors who really care about the organization and see where it's going in the future and want to participate. So we got Jim Caviezel September 5th on Thursday.
Where can people go to get tickets, find out more about the event, donate, etc.?
For sure. You can go to tkrl.org, and right when you go there, a big banner will come up with his picture on it.
There you go.
Click on it, and it'll take you to the Eventbrite site where you can buy your tickets.
That would be totally awesome. Also, again, on John Gerardi's birthday. So, so that's really important.
I have to answer one more thing.
Yeah.
We're doing something different as well. We're inviting a community children's choir to sing the national anthem. So this is a music director who's gathering all 4th to 6th graders. So we've invited all the schools in our diocese and all the schools are in the area to send their 4th to 6th graders. The students will get a complimentary ticket to the event, and their parents will receive a 20% discount on their tickets.
What a deal. Okay.
So
if you've got a kid who wants to sing, 4th, 6th graders, sign up, get a discount for the ticket.
Absolutely.
All right, and absolutely, folks, Tulare King's Right to Life is our sister organization. We used to be one enormous nonprofit with an office in Fresno, Visalia, and Bakersfield. About 25 years ago or so, we split into 3 separate 501c3s, but we've always been allied. We've always worked together. We've always collaborated together. They support our stuff. We support their stuff. So for all of you listening, I would really encourage you, get a ticket, go see Jim Caviezel, have an awesome evening, see a great speaker, and support the work of TKRL. Again, if it weren't for you guys, there would almost certainly be an abortion clinic in Visalia right now. So, we really appreciate you. All right, Ann Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. We'll have
you for having me.
more collaboration in the months and years to come.
Wonderful.
When we return, we will be back with more on Right to Life Radio right after this break. Our thanks to Ann Marie Payton for joining us from Tulare King's Right to Life. You know, one of the things we were talking about with Ann Marie are her and Tulare King's Right to Life's local efforts to stop abortion clinics from getting started in Tulare County, which has been a real big goal of abortion providers. They view Tulare County as it's this abortion desert because it's the most populous county in California that doesn't have an abortion clinic. Now, there was an interesting piece in World Magazine, and you can find it at twitter.com/righttolifeca, at righttolifeca. I want to start promoting our Twitter account a little bit more, so I'm going to try and put more articles that we use for the show and tweet them out at the Twitter account for Right to Life of Central California, twitter.com/righttolifeca. That's like California. It's written by Mary Jackson, and I got interviewed for this article, and Mary was doing a lot of really good work for this. She writes for World Magazine, which is a Christian publication. I think it's kind of in the focus on the family universe of organizations. Backlash in Beverly Hills. Pro-lifers notch a rare win in California, but their fight against an all-trimester abortion center isn't over. Now, this has to do with a successful effort in Beverly Hills, California, of all places, to try to stop the establishment of a new abortion clinic. So this clinic is called the DuPont Clinic, and it's based in Washington, D.C. So I think it's after like DuPont Circle, which is like one neighborhood in kind of the D.C. area. So the DuPont Clinic has advertised itself in D.C. on the grounds of being a, quote, all-trimester abortion clinic. That's their big thing they push, is that they do late-term abortions there. They announced that they were going to open up shop a couple of years ago. They announced they were going to open up shop with another location in Beverly Hills, California. And at that time, sort of shortly after COVID, the state was just flush with money. The state was just flush with various kinds of federal COVID relief money. And so the state of California was just spending like a drunken sailor. And abortion entities were benefiting from that largesse. So, for example, that was around the time, sort of 2022, when Planned Parenthood Marmonte, the Planned Parenthood clinic on Fulton Street, right next to our outreach center in Fresno, they got a $1 million grant from the state via the city council, via the Fresno City Council, to support, to basically $1 million free dollars. It was basically just total general revenue with very little restrictions placed on it. Well, around that time, DuPont Clinic decided they were going to open up shop in Beverly Hills. And this was, a lot of stuff was happening with the abortion movement. It was June of 2022. The Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. There was all this, and later on that year, in November of 2022, California passed Proposition 1, which puts a right to abortion right in the state constitution. Now, it raised this question about the kinds of abortions that DuPont Clinic was going to do. DuPont Clinic was, DuPont Clinic, again, was billing itself in D.C. as an all-trimester abortion clinic. So were they going to do third trimester abortions in California? So the legal posture with third trimester or post-viability abortion in California, existing California law basically stated abortion is legal in California except after the point when the fetus is viable. Now, viability is not exactly a hard and fast line. It can change depending on the unborn child. It's the point, theoretically, at which the child could survive outside of the womb. And the problem is that that's not a hard and fast line. A certain percentage of children delivered at let's say 22 weeks, will survive, but it's not 100%, okay? So what is the viability line? So California law says that abortions before fetal viability are legal. Abortions after fetal viability are illegal unless the pregnancy represents a threat to maternal life or health. Now, health is a much lower standard than life, and the interpretation of a health exception, that the idea of a health exception comes from a Supreme Court case from 1973. It was Roe v. Wade's sister case called Doe versus Bolton, where they said states can ban abortion, but they need to have an exception for pregnancies that threaten the mother's health. And they interpreted health so broadly in Doe versus Bolton that basically it encompasses any unwanted pregnancy. So if the pregnancy will adversely impact your mental health, your psychological health, your familial health, my family dynamic will be upset if I have this abortion, that qualifies as a pregnancy that threatens maternal health. And every pregnancy can be deemed to threaten maternal health. So California effectively allows abortion through all 3 trimesters, but you do need a doctor at the very least to sign off that, yes, this pregnancy is threatening your health, therefore you can have a 3rd trimester, late-term post-viability abortion. Proposition 1, though, got passed in 2022, and it just says that that women have a right to an abortion, full stop. Nothing in Proposition 1 includes any kind of limitation based on fetal viability or maternal health or anything. And that provision of Proposition 1 that was passed in 2022 was put into the California state constitution itself. California has a state constitution, just like the federal government has the U.S. Constitution. And it's sort of the foundational law for California. So it's kind of an open question. What exactly is California law as it relates to fetal viability and abortions in the 3rd trimester? Is it just totally legal now? Seems like it is. And this piece from World Magazine, again written by Mary Jackson, sort of delves into that. It delves into the fact that a group of pro-lifers called the Survivors of the Abortion Holocaust did a bunch of protesting and activism in the city of Beverly Hills to draw attention that, hey, this is a 3rd trimester abortion clinic that's going to set up shop here in Beverly Hills. And it received a bunch of local attention, and long story short, it turns out that the building manager, basically it turns out that the deal wasn't going to go through. Whatever the private entities that were involved with getting this set up weren't wanting it to continue. Now, there's going to be lawsuits filed against the city of Beverly Hills for, was there communication between city officials in Beverly Hills and the pro-life protesters? But I think the thing it goes to show, sort of to piggyback on what Ann Marie was saying in our first segment, is if local citizens get engaged, work with private entities to talk about, hey, do we really want abortion here in our city, in our community? You can affect some really positive change. So anyway, go to twitter.com/right-to-life-ca, at right-to-life-ca on Twitter. You can read this great story by Mary Jackson. I was interviewed for it. I have a quote in the story. Now, when we return, we're going to talk a little bit about the Democrat convention and the aggressive promotion of abortion there, the practice of abortion there. That's next on Right to Life Radio. Well, the Democrat convention just wrapped up, and I want to talk a little bit about the promotion of abortion there. And I'm going to get a little bit personal as far as the stuff I've been reading and thinking about, not related to pro-life news and stuff, but and I've talked about this maybe a little bit on the show, I think, maybe a little bit with Jonathan. Jonathan not with us this week. Jonathan's jet-setting all over the country. Sort of the biblical example of the infidelity of the Jewish people during the time of the kingship in Israel and Judah. So from King Saul, the first king of Israel, all the way through eventually the Babylonian captivity and the Assyrians taking over the North Kingdom, and the way in which God was looking at and judging the north kingdom of Israel and the south kingdom of Judah, and the biblical accounts of all this, and fidelity and infidelity. Now, why was I thinking about this? At the Democratic Convention, one of the things that I think pro-lifers have found most disturbing is that Planned Parenthood, sort of their Chicago-based affiliate, set up right outside the Democratic Convention a mobile unit, so licensed mobile clinic unit. And from this mobile unit, they were giving out medical services. We can debate whether they are actually medical, but anyway, they were giving out certain interventions, let's say. They were doing vasectomies, which, gotta say, I have my moral issues as a Catholic with vasectomies. I gotta say, though, if you're thinking of doing a vasectomy, seems like a real choice to do a vasectomy on a bus. I don't know. Doesn't strike me as the wisest choice to make, even if, I don't know. Doesn't seem like something that can roll along the ground. I don't know. Doesn't seem like the safest place to be getting a vasectomy, but, just my opinion. The other big service they were offering from this rolling, mobile Planned Parenthood unit was the abortion pill. And the Planned Parenthood organizers were estimating that in the first 2 days of the Democratic Convention that they were going to be giving the abortion pill to 25 people, meaning 25 babies would be killed. And this was right outside the Democratic Convention. I don't know to what extent that this mobile unit set up was officially organized with, coordinated with, sanctioned by the Democratic Convention itself. Obviously, Planned Parenthood has a very warm and cozy relationship with the DNC. This is deliberately done to be outside the DNC. It was done as a stunt, clearly a promotional stunt, or maybe to use the parlance of the people who got this set up, as a way to bring awareness of the abortion issue and to highlight it and its importance for the Democrats in the course of their convention. And make no mistake about it, I mean, abortion is critically important to the Democrats' agenda. It's one of the few issues where Kamala Harris polls better than Donald Trump. And so Democrats are making very much a centerpiece of their national campaign. They're trying to say vote for Kamala Harris because she wants to reinstitute the provisions of Roe v. Wade nationwide via nationwide legislation. I think it's the great threat from a Harris administration would be if Harris is elected and the Democrats retain control of the Senate and Democrats gain control of the House, that it's distinctly possible for Democrats to eliminate the filibuster rule in the U.S. Senate, which would allow Democrats to force through on a party line vote a law to mandate legal abortion for all 50 states. Basically a federal law that would override all of the individual state laws in states like Texas and Alabama and all these different states that have passed laws to restrict abortion. A nationwide law to wipe away all of those individual state laws. Make abortion yet again a totally federal issue. Take it almost completely out of the hands of the states. But the presence of the abortion clinic bus right there, doing 25 abortions, coordinated to be right alongside the Democratic Convention, it really struck me, and it's making me think about this biblical stuff. So just for my own context, my kind of daily prayer routine, if I can share it, I do this round of daily prayer. It's based on, so Anglicans and Episcopalians have what's called the Book of Common Prayer. And it was kind of developed when the Anglican Church started by Thomas Cranmer, and it was sort of taking older Catholic models for daily cycles of prayers that people in monasteries, monks, nuns would pray, and kind of simplifying it down kind of more for lay people and translating it into English. So it has a lot of kind of Catholic roots to it, and there was a group of Anglicans and Episcopalians that wanted to convert to Catholicism, and Pope Benedict XVI set up a system for them to convert to Catholicism, but to retain some of their traditions of prayer. So I use this kind of daily prayer book that their community, these Catholics who used to be Anglicans, I use the prayer book that they use, and it's been fruitful and beneficial for me. And part of it is you pray a selection of Psalms, then you have a big reading from the Old Testament and a big reading from the New Testament. You do that for morning prayer and evening prayer. So every day I'm reading a big chunk of the Old Testament. I'm reading 2 big chunks of the Old Testament, 2 big chunks of the New Testament. So I'll get through the whole New Testament in a year, and I'll get through most of the Old Testament in a year. So the last 3 or 4 months, I've been reading a lot of the historical books of the Bible that talk about the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, and starting with the Judges through 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, into so I'm reading about basically the history of the kingdom of Israel, and then the 2 kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. And the way that the authors of those books judge, they introduce basically based on each king's reign. So-and-so succeeded his father so-and-so as the king of Israel. And how do they immediately judge him? They judge him based on whether or not he allows paganism, or whether he supports paganism, allows paganism, doesn't worship the pagan gods of the Canaanite peoples who surrounded the Jews at that time, or if he actively suppressed the worship of those pagan gods. And we talked about this a bit on the show, that the gods that some of the peoples around the Jewish people of that time worshipped there was this god Baal, B-A-A-L, or basically several different local gods. There were all different kinds of Baals. It was kind of, these category of gods were sort of recognized as kind of like fertility gods. And this other god called Molech. And then a female kind of fertility goddess called Asherah. And Baal and Asherah were kind of next to each other, kind of frickin' frack, kind of Jupiter and Juno kind of a arrangement. And it always confused me growing up, like, why were the Israelites so tempted to worship some other god? I never understood it. And people say, well, we idolize, we make idols of things today. We make idols of money and sexual pleasure. And I was like, okay, yeah, but that doesn't seem very satisfying to me. Like, why were they so tempted to not worship God and to participate in this other religion? Did they just like societal envy? They just wanted to be like other peoples that surrounded the Jews at the time. Like they wanted to be cool and therefore engage in polytheistic worship. Like what was so tempting about it? And reading the accounts in the Old Testament, you get some indications of it. One of these indications was the reality of child sacrifice that some of these sort of Phoenician-inspired religions engaged in, and there were certain individual kings of, I think, Israel who literally took their babies and offered them in burnt human sacrifices to Molech. And learning more as I have about, I was a classics major in college, the attitude of the ancient world towards inconvenient children was very brutal. The idea of if a child was born with any kind of a disability, you would just leave the child to die. This was very common in the Roman Empire. It was very common in Greece. It was very common in lots of the pagan cultures that surrounded Israel in sort of this Old Testament era. It was very common of the pagans that surrounded Christians and Jews in the ancient world. And also the brutalization of women. The cult of Asherah that many of the Israelites were participating in involved ritualistic prostitution. And I think maybe, again, I'm not a biblical scholar or historian or anything, but I think part of the temptation of these religions to the Jewish people was that it got rid of some of the more burdensome moral restraints that Judaism put on its people that made Judaism unique and uniquely good. Judaism wasn't just polytheism, but with one God. It involved a moral component of respecting human dignity, the dignity of individual human beings, including inconvenient people, or orphans, widows, sojourners, as the biblical translations call it, so foreigners who were foreign nationals who were living among the Jewish people. People who didn't necessarily have anyone to take care of them, who were a burden on you, a burden on society, that you didn't just kill them. You didn't just brutalize them as prostitutes. You didn't just take advantage of them. That, in fact, how you treat them determines the godliness or goodness of society. And so to see this political party, this whole convention, so dedicated to abortion that not only are they promoting its being totally legal, mandating its being legal in states that don't want it to be legal, but doing abortions, needlessly doing them as a publicity stunt to signal we're so committed to this, we're going to do abortions right here on the spot. It's like a ritualistic killing. And I don't talk in kind of conspiracy theory like ways. Anyone who listens to this show or John Gerardi show long enough knows that I don't fly off on tangents. I don't do wild-eyed right-wing conspiracy talk. I'm not some QAnon guy. But the extent to which the promotion of abortion has taken place at this Democrat convention to the point of, as a publicity stunt, to bring awareness, using air quotes there, to just do 25 abortions just for publicity. It feels like a ritual killing of 25 inconvenient people. And it honestly makes me very fearful for the course the country's on. I don't know how much more I have to say about it, but it was a really disturbing thing. And it's just been weighing on my brain and on my heart, and I just thought I'd share it with all of you. All right, closing thoughts right after this. This is Right to Life Radio. Back with Right to Life Radio. All right, just closing thoughts on the state of the election. So what are the stakes at play? As I mentioned in the last segment, Jonathan and I were really, I think, right dead on the money in 2020 talking about the pro-life issue that was most at risk. And the pro-life issue that was the most consequential thing that came out of the 2020 election was Joe Biden's deregulation of the abortion pill, which I think led to the abortion rate spiking by about 100,000 abortions or the number of abortions total in America spiking by about 100,000 per year from 2020 to now. There's about 1 million abortions happening per year now. There were a little less than 900,000 happening in 2020. It's a tremendous increase, and it's mostly been from the abortion pill. I think the big risk here is if Harris wins and Republicans and Democrats get control of both the House and Senate, then they will break the filibuster to override all state laws regulating abortion. All the state laws that have been able to come into effect since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, all of them could get overridden by one federal law binding everybody. And Democrats would have to get rid of the filibuster to do it. But I think that's the stakes. That'll do it. Right to Life Radio. See y'all next time on Power Talk.